Warning: the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, winner of the National Radio Hall of Fame Award, Michael Savage.
If you like pina coladas, getting caught in the rain. If you're not into
It is the Savage Nation. There's only one question today because the president just gave a press conference about North Korea where he said maybe fire and fury isn't enough on North Korea. Not enough. In other words, he's doubled down. All of the nervous Nellies, the previous defense secretaries who weakened us, the think tankers who undermined us, the boll weevils in the universities are wringing their hands saying, please appease Hitler. Please continue to appease the North Korean Hitler. Maybe he'll stop. Can't we just talk to him? Well, I've been talking to him for a while. So Trump said maybe fire and fury statement on North Korea wasn't tough enough. I'm going to ask you a question, those of you who listen to the Savage Nation quite religiously. We're going to ignore all of the nervous Nellies in the media. We're going to ignore everyone. It's only this audience and I. Is Trump right to threaten North Korea? Yes or no? Has he made things worse, or will he back Fatso down? Now, many people are saying there are military options here, and there are military options, and I'm not a military man at all, but I do read military men who know what they're talking about. He can be stopped, and just as Hitler should have been stopped at Munich, Fatso should be stopped right now before he actually gets the ability to blast us here in the United States of America. Many of you don't understand. Many of you don't understand the nearest thing even about a fist fight. And I'm no tough guy, but I've had my incidents in my life. I learned one thing about bullies. Unless you stand up to them, even if they're bigger than you, they're going to crush you. Now, North Korea is smaller than us. But North Korea is a bully. They're bullying us because they've been used to bullying us because we've had punks running America. We've had Islamists running America, Islamophiles running America, Islamophobes running America. We've had think tankers and defense contractors, but we've never had, in recent times anyway, someone willing to stand up for America. This is no longer an internal feud inside the White House. This is the president, the commander-in-chief, who has his finger on the button, whether you like it or not. And, of course, many of you are terrified that he actually may do this. So I'm asking you, the audience, is Trump right to threaten North Korea? It could be done, by the way. North Korea last night said that they're going to attack Guam by mid-August. Many people are saying, why can't we talk to him? For example, Mad Maxine Waters, who should be investigated for the scandalous inveigling of funds connected with Freddie and Fannie. Maxine Waters has not shut her big fat mouth yet, and she says we should talk to North Korea. William Cohen, former so-called defense secretary, says that Trump's fire and fury comment was bombastic, and silence would have been better. Well, William Cohen was well known to have embarrassed the United States as defense secretary. I believe he oversaw the bombing of Serbia, if I'm not mistaken. He seems to have been very happy to have bombed Serbia and blown up every bridge on the Danube River. Now he's telling Trump to do nothing. What's really interesting is that many of the leftists in America are now sort of siding with North Korea. They're saying all he really wants is the reunification of Korea. Is that something you think would be good? To take a communist dictatorship where people are eating straw and they're killed if they let us say, lambast or even criticize the dictator Kim Jong-Fat One in any way? If Kim Jong-Fat One is at all intimidated, they wind up dead or in a concentration camp. And now the left in America is saying we should talk to him and let him reunify Korea into a hellhole? Do you people not understand that South Korea is an example of what capitalism produces when people are unshackled from communism or socialism or any of the other isms that you people are so in love with at your universities where you don't really work for a living? All you do is collect a government check and then tell everyone the government is great and the taxpayer is an idiot? Did you hear what I just said to you? He wants to reunify Korea into a hellhole, a dictatorship like he has in the North. The South produces Samsung televisions, Kia cars. The people are free. The city is beautiful. Have you no idea what you are talking about? So let's begin right now on the Savage Nation with the question of, is Trump right to threaten North Korea, or do you think he's making matters worse? And should we just talk to big, fat, mentally ill Un? Number two, I want to play for you the sound of the press conference that President Trump just had in New Jersey. Let's listen in right now on the Savage Nation. It occurred minutes ago.
Any questions?
Mr. President, the North Koreans said yesterday that your statement on Tuesday was nonsense. That's the word that they used. Do you have any response to that?
Well, I don't think they mean that, and I think it's the first time they've heard it like they heard it. And frankly, the people that were questioning that statement, was it too tough? Maybe it wasn't tough enough. They've been doing this to our country for a long time, for many years. And it's about time that somebody stuck up for the people of this country and for the people of other countries. So, if anything, maybe that statement wasn't tough enough. And we're backed by 100% by our military. We're backed by everybody. And we're backed by many other leaders. And I noticed that many senators and others today came out very much in favor of what I said. But if anything, that statement may not be tough enough.
What would be tougher than firing Fury?
Well, you'll see. You'll see.
Mr. President, is one of the options being considered a preemptive strike?
We don't talk about that. I never do. I'm not like the other administration that would say we're going into Mosul in 4 months. I don't talk about it. We'll see what happens. But I can tell you that what they've been doing and what they've been getting away with is a tragedy, and it can't be allowed. Sure. We'll always consider negotiations, but they've been negotiating now for 25 years. Look at Clinton. He folded on the negotiations. He was weak and ineffective. You look what happened with Bush. You look what happened with Obama. Obama, he didn't even want to talk about it. But I talk. It's about time. Somebody has to do it. Somebody has to do it.
Talk about your relationship with Senator McConnell.
I just want him to get repeal and replace done. I've been hearing repeal and replace now for 7
The gobbler and stop. I don't want to hear about McConnell and Obamacare. I'm only interested in Kim Jong-Fat Un. Only interested in North Korean maximum leader Kim Jong-Fat Un and his threats against the United States of America. And the main question again is Trump right to threaten North Korea? Many of the nervous Nellies are saying, no, that's not the American way. We should talk with big, fat, mentally ill Un. They've been talking, as he said, for 20 years. And the man knows how to get away with murder because he gets away with murder every day. Isn't it interesting that the media is more ruthless towards Trump than they are to a man who kills his own people? Isn't it odd that the media is more obsessed in their ruthlessness against Donald Trump than they are against big Kim Jong-Fat Un? Don't you think that's crazy? Let's see what you have to say out there. KBOZ Radio. Bill, welcome to the Savage Nation. Go ahead, please.
Dr. Savage, thank you. Real simple. We, the people, need to help the president out. I lived in China for 6 years back in the early 90s, and the only way to deal with everyone over there is to say what you mean clearly and precisely. So we, the American people, and maybe you can start it on your show, today we start the flower pot revolution. We, the people of the United States, tell the Chinese that unless this is solved by September 1st, we are going to boycott everything in this country made in China.
Well, that sounds good on paper, but they have a lot of leverage over us in that they hold a lot of our debt, don't they?
Oh, yeah, but we, the people, hold their number one market, and they don't want to screw that up.
Well, we understand that. But it's a symbiotic relationship in many ways, and I wouldn't think that we need to antagonize China anymore at this point. We have asked China to help. And how many years have I said that North Korea doesn't bark unless China tells it to bark? You agree with me that North Korea is the junkyard dog of China. I've said that for years. I'm surprised it hasn't been stolen yet by anyone in the media. But North Korea does not bark unless China tells them to bark. They're standing outside the junkyard and they're barking at anyone that their master tells them to bark at and snarling at. So North Korea is doing this because China wants them to do it. That's my estimation.
Exactly.
You know, and by the way, I've said this before. I may as well say it again. So you say, well, why does China want North Korea to threaten us with missiles? Because we're threatening China with embargoes. We're threatening them with tariffs. We're threatening them with the currency manipulation, things like that. So China's saying, okay, I'll tell you what, we'll use our junkyard dog now to scare you to death. So you leave us alone so we can continue to outtrade you. We can continue to make a fortune off you. We continue to dump our goods on your shore and drive your industries out of business. So that's what they're doing. They're using North Korea as a threat. I think that's what I see anyway from the outside here. I thank you for that call. I haven't yet sucked the oxygen out of this topic. I think we've just opened the topic up about Korea, which is Trump right to threaten North Korea? You won't believe this, but before this press conference occurred, I was going to go with two other topics. Are you ready for them? You'll never believe them. I may as well throw them into the mix because they have nothing to do with North Korea. One was, I read that golf is dying. And you know I hate golf. I think it's one of the slowest sports I've ever seen in my life. I don't know how anyone could play. All right, I know many of you do. But golf is losing its popularity in huge numbers. And I wanted to know why. I want to know why people hate the game and have dropped the game. Because the golf industry is in a slump. It's losing more players than it's gaining. 4.1 million people left the sport in 2013, outpacing the 3.7 million who picked it up last year. I don't know how anyone could talk about it. I don't know how you can listen to anyone talk about it, let alone play the game. But I was going to ask you that. Why is golf dying? Then there was another topic I was going to talk about, just to show you I'm not going to get stuck on big fat one. I read about a woman who was suing a dating agency after a string of disastrous matches. And I was going to ask you, what's your craziest date through an agency, a website, or a hookup site like Tinder? Whatever happened to you? You say, well, why are you doing a thing like that? Why not? It's part of the human condition. It's as interesting as Kim Jong mentally ill on. I read this story. You're not going to believe this one, talking about North Korea. I know it's like so disparate. But you got people at Burning Man, which we talked about yesterday, who are having around-the-clock sex orgies intense. You don't know this. I didn't bring it up yesterday. Someone who I know very well called me and said, Michael, it's worse than you think. It's around-the-clock group sex at Burning Man. It's not this hippie love fest that you think in the sense of peace and love. It's about raw, unbridled sexuality, sex around the clock. That's all it is. It's orgiastic behavior in the desert. So then I read this morning. I couldn't believe it. On Craigslist, someone sent me this. A guy posts this. Wanted, a woman who wants to conceive a child during total eclipse in Oregon. No, wanted, woman who wants to conceive a child during a total eclipse in Oregon. And the guy writes this, I couldn't make these things up. I could not make a thing like this up. Here's what a guy puts on Craigslist. I am 40 years of age, Caucasian male from Europe. My heritage is strong and pure. Hi, Mr. Nazi. My looks, instincts, knowledge, and strength is 100% pure. Okay, Adolf. And 100% lethal. Okay. I am looking for a worthy female with strong genes, beauty, and smarts to join me to experience the total eclipse in Oregon. Exact place not set. And then he writes this. If we have chemistry, I would like for us to make love while the eclipse is happening. When totality occurs, we will have simultaneous orgasms, and we will conceive a child that will be on the next level of human evolution. We'll make love together. Everything will be aligned in the local universe. Both of our cosmic, orgasmic energy will be aligned with the planets. Wait, listen to the rest. Don't turn the show off. In a brief moment of ecstasy, we will understand everything and together create a new universe full of love. Now, wait, here's the punchline. You must like cats. Drugs are okay. Nitrous oxide while we climax and experience totality and conception is okay with me. So this neo-Nazi psychotic is going to produce the perfect Aryan baby on nitrous oxide. Does it get any crazier than this in the world in which we live? If it does, let me know about it. All right, I'm at my breaking point, meaning I have to take a break. And the phone number is 855-407-2822. Back in a minute.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. Is Trump right to threaten North Korea? Is it long overdue, or is it a bellicosity that the world doesn't need right now? It's as simple as that. And I wouldn't say America's divided on this. I mean, my gut instinct tells me most Americans would back Trump if he were to launch some kind of strike against North Korea, preemptively or otherwise, taking out command and control centers, taking out nuclear facilities, taking out the research scientist barracks, anything along those lines, America would cheer. And by the way, so would Japan, incidentally. Certainly South Korea would. Philippines would. The only people who would oppose it would be Jerry Brown and Maxine Waters, because they need to understand, I mean, they want us to understand that they need quietude around their own deficiencies. Here's Maxine Waters saying we have to find out if we can work with North Korea. What do you mean we have to find out? We've been trying to work with North Korea since the armistice, Maxine. What world are you living in? And don't you love how she's calling for diplomacy all of a sudden, that big-mouth liar? After months and months and months of shooting off her filthy mouth, screaming for impeachment day after day after day to her dumb constituents who she rips off. She lives in a multi-million-dollar house outside her own district. And here's a woman who stirs up her own constituents with hatred for the president day after day. And she's now screaming for diplomacy. This is astounding to me. But I'm asking you, is Trump right to threaten North Korea? You know, there was a secret police chief in the Soviet Union named Beria, one of the most frightened, fearful people on earth. And he had a statement. It was, show me the man and I'll show you the crime. Mueller is now the Beria of America. Show me the man and I'll show you the crime. So he breaks in the doors of Mr. Manafort. The day after Manafort testifies, by the way, and cooperates with the Senate and the FBI uses Soviet-style tactics of kicking in his door with a fake search warrant gotten from some crackpot judge. And now we're living in the Soviet Union, and we're sitting here not recognizing what's going on in this country from the American so-called Democratic left. Show me the man and I'll show you the crime. When they came for Manafort, you didn't raise your voice, did you?
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE. Savage.
There were no mixed messages. I heard, to be honest, General Mattis may have taken it a step beyond what I said. There were no mixed messages, and Rex was just, stating the view. But look, here's the view. I said it yesterday. I don't have to say it again. And I'll tell you this. It may be tougher than I said it, not less. It may very well be tougher than I said it. Okay? How about one more?
Can you offer any assurance to the American people who are understandably anxious about the situation with North Korea? They see images of these missiles coming up in the air. The threats are long. They see your statement about fire and fury. Should they be comfortable that you have this under?
The people of this country should be very comfortable. And I will tell you this. If North Korea does anything in terms of even thinking about attack of anybody that we love or we represent or our allies or us, they can be very, very nervous. I'll tell you what, and they should be very nervous because things will happen to them like they never thought possible, okay? He's been pushing the world around for a long time, and I have great respect for what China and what Russia did and those 15, we got a 15-0 vote. I have great respect for China and Russia, what they did on sanctions. I believe that will have an effect. I don't think it will have the kind of effect, even though we were the ones that got it. And Nikki Haley did a great job. We all did a great job. but I have great respect for what they did. I have great respect for the 15-0, but probably it will not be as effective as a lot of people think it can be, unfortunately.
China do more?
I think China can do a lot more, yes. China can, and I think China will do a lot more. Look, we have trade with China. We lose hundreds of billions of dollars a year on trade with China. They know how I feel. It's not going to continue like that. But if China helps us, I feel a lot differently toward trade. A lot differently toward trade. So we will do, I think, the people of our country are safe, our allies are safe, and I will tell you this, North Korea better get their act together or they're going to be in trouble like few nations ever have been in trouble in this world. Okay? Thank you very much. We're going down to the other side.
All right. Is Trump right to threaten North Korea? And I know many people are calling on that. I put it up on Twitter a few minutes ago. I said, Trump is right. I didn't ask. I said, Trump is right to threaten North Korea. And some of the Trump right to threaten North Korea long overdue, I put on Twitter, right? And someone wrote something that I think is worth reading to you. Someone said, we are not the world police. If we focused on strengthening our country instead of manipulating other countries, our lives would be better. That's a typical college answer. That's ignoring the very real threats of Kim Jong mentally ill on. And then someone wrote this, when the crazy guy across the street threatens your family, you ignore him. When he flashes a gun while doing so, you give him the business. That says it all. This is not just mentally ill on threatening us anymore. He's actually been firing missiles. He's flashing more than a gun. He's flashing ICBMs with nuclear weapons on it. Now, what do you want to do? Wait until Hawaii goes up in ruins? Then what will you say? Trump provoked him? You know what's amazing to me? Some of the most vicious people on the left, let's say the people in Hollywood, they have to be amongst the most vicious next to, let us say, the coke users on Wall Street. So now picture the most vicious people in the record business, the most vicious people in the movie business. They're the most ruthless people. I'll tear your heart out for $1. These are people who take no prisoners. They thrive on hurting and harming the competition, on breaking musicians, on breaking artists, on getting deals that you wouldn't believe. These are the people screaming, Trump is too tough. Trump is too militant. Isn't that ironic? The most militant, vicious people on the planet are screaming he's too tough. It's a strange world we live in, and it takes a very strange mindset to be able to see through it all. And thank God I was given a strange mindset, or develop a strange mindset, or a mindset strange enough to see through it all. This is a very foggy situation. All I can say is we're in a new world right now, and we better get used to it. And I'll take your calls on this issue right now. Stewart on KSFO, line 3. You have the floor. Go ahead, please.
Michael, I love you, but I have to disagree with you on this. I think the reason Korea is doing this is they want nukes to avoid a Libya or Iraq situation where we go in and take out the country for no reason. Okay? If they're firing, if they fire first at us, they'd be obliterated. It makes no sense. They're using it as a defensive means, and if they're firing rockets, they have to test them. Okay?
Oh, so you're now justifying and appeasing Kim Jong-un. You're saying he's doing what he has to do.
No. I'm saying that if he's going to have defensive weapons, like a nuclear weapon to prevent us from attacking him, like we did Iraq and Libya, he's got to test the missiles. It's not appeasement.
What is it? What would you call it? What would you call your position? You're sympathetic to Kim Jong-un, is what you are.
No. I'm not sympathetic to Kim Jong-un. I detest Kim Jong-un. But I'm talking about the logic of why he's developing these weapons. He saw what happened in Libya and Iraq, and I think Pat Buchanan says the same thing. Okay, it makes no.
Well, Pat Buchanan, for all due respect, is an isolationist, a non-interventionist, an America first, and I respect him for it. Listen to me. I respect Pat Buchanan's thinking, but when it comes to mentally ill I disagree with Pat Buchanan. It's long overdue because he's not just testing missiles, he's threatening the United States mainland.
Yeah, because we're threatening him.
So in other words, you're blaming us, in other words. You're blaming us now.
Yeah, I think that it's Trump doesn't need to ratchet this thing up because...
Did you vote for Hillary or for Trump?
No, I'm a big Trump supporter, but he's betrayed most of his base, including me. But he's all we got right now.
So you would rather see him capitulate and look like a wimp and a coward?
You use the little catchphrase. It's not capitulating.
Wait a minute. What do you mean? What would it be if Trump backed down? Let's say the 15th of August comes and goes in 5 days, and Kim Jong, mentally ill, said he's going to fire missiles in the direction of Guam. What would happen if Trump does nothing? Wouldn't that weaken us in the world?
He should back off and see if it tone down the rhetoric and see if he can if Kim Jong Un, whatever his name is, continues to threaten us, then we can talk. Okay, but
I don't know. I hear what you're saying is what you're saying. If Kim Jong Un launches a missile at Hawaii and fries Honolulu, then maybe we should do something. That's what you're saying.
No, I'm not. No, I'm saying he's not going to do that offensively as a first strike because he knows he'll be obliterated. He's doing it.
Okay. We agree on that. Rationally, we agree on that. But do we really know what he might do?
Well, you never know what anybody's going to do. But to use
all right, and we do know that the man is. You know what life is like in North Korea at all? I'm sure you do.
Relevant.
Okay. And we know that he's a madman who wants to reunify Korea into one police state. You certainly don't want that to happen, do you?
Well, I don't know that that's true. That he's doing that in an aggressive way. I don't see the evidence for that.
Yes, he is. In fact, he has stated that we are only in an armistice, that the Korean War ended not by ending, it was an armistice, and he still has the goal, as his father did and his grandfather did, of reuniting Korea into one nation under a one-man rule by one psychopath, this Kim family. Do you understand the Kim family is a danger to the world's stability?
That's hype. You're hyping now. You're hyping.
Wait, excuse me. I know the history. You don't. You're only a radio caller. I'm a man who studies the issues for a living. You didn't study this issue the way I did. I mean, you probably read it in the newspaper somewhere. No, he wants to reunify Korea. That is his goal. If you actually study what he has said, what he has written, what the Kim family has been after since the armistice was signed, it is the obliteration of South Korea as an independent nation, all now wrapped up under the rule of one of the Kim madmen.
Under what conditions? You're leaving that out. You're making an abstract statement.
What do you mean by under? Wait, what do you mean under what condition? What does that mean?
Well, you don't know. Does he want to do it violently? Does he want to set up another communist state? Does he want to negotiate?
So you think that would be okay if he wanted to just set up another communist state? That would be fine if he did it peacefully?
That wouldn't be fine, and we don't know that he's aggressively trying to do it. And just to say he wants.
I don't really know what world you live in. I really don't know what world you live in, but it's not the world I live in. I can tell you that. But you know what? This is what makes for an interesting discussion, and I do thank you for calling. The object is not to crush the other man in a discussion, but to give your point of view. And I can't give you any more than my point of view. But you have to understand what the Kim family is like. The Kim family has been after a Korean dictatorship from the beginning. They see the nation as if you think of Hitler Germany, if you think of Stalin's Russia, one man ruling the nation with absolute and total authority. Anyone who disagrees, any dissident, either gets put into a slave labor camp or is killed outright. That's what he envisions for the entire Korean peninsula. Now, you certainly don't think that would be acceptable, do you? I don't. So this is a big story. It's much bigger than you think. I do understand what the knot of war is, and I know the knot of war analogy by Nikita Khrushchev. I've read it, and I know it. And I don't know that it applies in this case. I read very widely on these issues before I open my mouth on these issues. But let me read you what Khrushchev wrote in 1962, just before the Cuban Missile Crisis. Khrushchev said to Kennedy, "If you did this as the first step towards the unleashing of war, well, then it is evident that nothing else is left to us but to accept this challenge of yours." This is Khrushchev. "If, however, you have not lost your self-control and sensibly conceive what this might lead to, then, Mr. President, we and you ought not now to pull on the ends of the rope in which you have tied the knot of war, because the more the two of us pull, the tighter the knot will be tied. And a moment may come when that knot will be tied so tightly that even he who tied it will not have the strength to untie it, and then it will be necessary. Then it will be necessary to cut that knot. And what that would mean is not for me to explain to you, because you yourself understand perfectly of what terrible forces our countries dispose. Nikita Khrushchev to John F. Kennedy, 1962. I'll be right back on the Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. Savage Nation. Of course, the main topic is Trump right to threaten North Korea? We will return to that, but on a more mundane level. I mean, we have to live our lives every day. You have a car, well, one day it's going to break down if it's an older car. It's a fact every car, truck, and SUV owner happens to know. If you're lucky, it'll happen while under the warranty of the manufacturer, and the repairs will be covered. But what if it happens after the warranty expires? Well, you could be out of pocket thousands to get it fixed. That's why I recommend getting extended coverage like I did from CarShield.com. Great people. A new engine, new tranny could cost you over $5,000. Even a simple repair to a sensor can cost over $1,000. Why don't you skip that possibility? CarShield makes the whole process easy. You select your favorite mechanic. You'll even go to the dealership to do the work, and there's no checks in the mail or waiting for reimbursement. CarShield gets the mechanic paid directly. Did you hear me? Directly. You don't have to mess with it. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. CarShield's administrators even give you the VIP treatment. They provide 24/7 roadside assistance and a rental car while yours is in the shop, so you're not left stranded in the cold. Listen to me. If your car is 3 to 12 years old, it doesn't mean you have to pay high repair bills. CarShield administrators have paid out close to $2 billion in claims, and they're ready to help you, or I wouldn't have taken them on as a sponsor. Save yourself thousands in potential car repairs. Get covered by the ultimate extended vehicle service protection before it's too late. All you got to do is call 800-CAR-6100, mention code SAVAGE, or visit carshield.com and use code SAVAGE to save 10%. Write it down, carshield.com, code SAVAGE. A deductible may apply. WABC, Frank, that's why you oppose Trump.
He's trying to be the big guy on the block. You know, North Korea has to test their missiles, and I just think...
North Korea has to test their missiles, I see. So when Hitler had to test his mechanized divisions when he went into Poland, he was just testing them?
Well, that's a whole different...
Why is it a whole different thing? Did Kim not threaten the surrounding nations? Did he not shoot a missile into the Sea of Japan?
Not shooting them over here yet.
Oh, so you'd like to see him shoot one over here, and then maybe Trump should do something?
Listen, if we would have had Hillary in office, we wouldn't have been in this predicament. Trump.
You're changing the subject. She appeased every dictatorship on the planet and attacked her political enemies in this nation. So let's not bring up Hillary Clinton, if you don't mind. You are of the opinion that we should wait till Kim destroys Honolulu before we do anything, aren't you?
Yeah, let him throw something. We can intercept it before it gets there.
Oh, now we can intercept it? How? You're going to jump up and catch it in your hands?
No, but we have...
All right, take a walk. Take a walk, you Hillary dummy, you. You're hiding under her stupid skirts. Aren't you ashamed of yourself? Aren't you just ashamed of yourself bringing up Hillary? She appeased Iran, for God's sakes. What did Iran do with Iran? What did Obama do with Iran? He snuck $175 billion into them in cash. Where'd that money come from? Where did Obama steal $175 billion from? No Mueller investigation. No NBC, CBS, ABC. Anderson Cooper, where were you when the $175 billion disappeared? You idiots, you. Now we have Kim Big Fat Un threatening the United States, threatening to obliterate us, threatening Hawaii, and you're saying, oh, he's not really going to do it. You want to take that chance? Is that what you want to do, is take that chance? Now, look, on a previous show a few days ago, I ran the only interview that I know of with the inventor of the neutron bomb, the smartest man I ever spoke to in my life, Dr. Sam Cohen. I interviewed him in 1999 when we both disagreed with the Democrats' merciless bombing of Serbia. He was appalled at what Clinton and Madeleine Albright were doing to Serbia. So was I, and I spoke with Dr. Cohen, and I have that interview, and I have to play it for you, because I don't know if we still have neutron bombs. It's an important story that must be told, because it was Bush Sr. who, the last I checked, had all of our neutron bombs taken apart. China has them, Russia has them, other nations have them. And although it was our technology developed at Lawrence Livermore Laboratory by Sam Cohen and others, we no longer had any neutron bombs because George Bush Sr. had them disassembled. I want to talk about the neutron bomb because if we have them, that's what's going to be used. That is what Trump is hinting at. Do you understand that? You heard it first in the Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage. Warning, the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, winner of the National Radio Hall of Fame Award, Michael Savage.
Welcome back to the Savage Nation Part 2. There's only one question on everyone's mind today. That is everyone who listens to talk radio or reads a newspaper or has a functional brain, which is Trump right to threaten North Korea? Now, we know how the fault lines break. They break along the lines of Trump is a bully, threatening him. There's no need to do it. Now, these are the people, such as the caller in the last hour, who said if Hillary had won, this wouldn't be happening. I don't know where to begin on that other than to play you a tape of Hillary Clinton after she assassinated Colonel Gaddafi of Libya. The peacenik, whose skirts you would like to hide under, boasted and laughed with her girlfriends in that sorority of hers after she killed Colonel Gaddafi. Listen to this very carefully so you get a little context of the situation and where I'm coming from. Listen.
We came, we saw, he died.
So even your lovely, peaceful Hillary Clinton, assassinated a world leader who she wanted gone. That's Gaddafi. So now Trump is saying enough is enough. He's threatening us. He's launching missiles. But the people behind Trump, the generals and the thinkers, and there are many, know the history of Korea, which many people in the street do not know. So let me give you a little history of the Kim family, the Stalinist dictatorship of Korea. For those of you who don't even know the difference between North and South Korea and think it's a joke, there's a little history you have to learn before you derive your own opinion. First of all, successful missile tests, yes. The murder of his half-brother in Kuala Lumpur, you forgot that? Well, it's a hermit state for a reason. There's a ruling dynasty. But what is the ruling dynasty? Well, it began with the eternal president, the grandfather, Kim Il-sung, who established the Stalinist dictatorship after World War II. And with Soviet Russia's help, he was installed, and he followed Stalin's tactics of killing all political enemies, and he laid down the foundations for the regime as we see it today. This mad dictator, the grandfather, had 3 children, Kim Man II, Kim Kyung-hee, and his successor, Kim Jong-il. Okay, now we move forward. Kim Jong-il, the father, was born in North Korea in 1942. Some say he was born in the Soviet Union in 1941. He was a playboy who loved American movies. He ran the country after his father's death in 1994. In 2011, he died. He was thought to have at least 4 female partners, which is why, of course, North Korea is still favored by those who go to Burning Man. We then go on to the current day, where we have a new sort of leadership under the grandson of the original dictator. The new one is known as Kim Big Fat Un. Kim Jong-il's first wife was known as Kim Yong-suk, but there are no pictures of her. She gave birth to their daughter Kim Sol-sung in 1974. Well, eventually, Kim Jong II became involved with the dancer Kim Jong-hui, and they became estranged. See, it even goes on in dictatorships. This is important for you to know. Prior to marrying Kim Jong-suk, Kim Jong-tu had an affair with Song Rae-him, a famous actress. Song reportedly suffered from mental illness, and she was forced to get out of North Korea and move to Russia, in which she died at 63. But this is important because they had a son named Kim Jong-nam. Okay, just follow the bouncing balls. The illegitimate son of Song Rae-him and Kim Jong-nam was raised in secrecy and set up to take the North Korean crown after his father's death. But listen to this. Jong-nam fell out of favor after being caught trying to travel to Disneyland. I know you say this is crazy. He was reportedly murdered on Monday, well, that was in February, after an apparent poison attack in Kuala Lumpur's main airport in Malaysia. So he was knocked off. Then what happened? Another one of Kim Jong II's lovers, Kim Jong-il's lovers, Ko Young-hui, was working as a dancer before becoming his partner and bore him 2 sons and a daughter. One of the sons is Kim Jong-un, who I affectionately call Kim Big Fat Un. She died in 2004, allegedly of breast cancer. Now it leads us to the supreme leader of the Stalinist Democratic People's Republic of Korea, very similar to Berkeley in many ways. Very little is known about the madman. Before he took power, he was rarely ever seen in public, and many of the things that he and his government do remain secret. No one even knows his birth date, but they think he's about 33 or 34 years old. And what is he doing now? The insecure madman is launching missiles in every direction he can and threatening both the United States of America, Japan, and the Philippines. So what do you expect Trump to do? Sit there and take it? Trump is absolutely right to threaten North Korea, but I will predict that this will go beyond threats. My prediction is it will be happening sooner than later. Another topic we're talking about, and I don't know, people are calling on it, is why is golf dying? Millions of people are leaving the sport here in the United States. I gave you my position, which is that it's too slow a game for anyone to play who has a quick mind, which is why it's a favorite topic of talk radio. But it's not a favorite topic of mine, but it's an important social comment in the sense that golf is dying. It's part of a past generation. But let's get back to the main question. Is Trump right to threaten North Korea? We're also talking about what Mueller is doing in his attempts to crucify President Trump and undo the election. Beria, the Secret Service director in the Soviet Union, the ruthless killer of millions, had a statement. Show me the man and I'll show you the crime. Sadly, this once great American war hero, Robert Mueller, is now copying the tactics of Beria. Maybe he doesn't know that. Okay? KLIF, Bill, line 7. Is Trump right or wrong? Go ahead, please.
I say go Trump.
That's it. Okay. Thank you for the call. I would like a discussion, but okay, we didn't get a discussion. Can we have callers who want to discuss it or argue with me? Just a go Trump or no Trump isn't going to work. So let's take a golf call. Danny on KVOR, why is golf dying as a sport?
Hey, Michael, reasons why golf is dying is besides the cost. Green fees, so expensive. Your clubs are expensive. Golf balls are expensive. You get out there after paying all that money, and then the game is so frustrating. You can't get good at it. You know, like any other thing you can pick up and start doing.
So it takes too long to master the sport. Okay, I guess that's okay. Others say it's too expensive. Let's take one more golf call while we're talking about Donald Trump's warnings. Brett on KSFO line 8, you're a PGA pro for years. Tell me about the game and why you're not playing it anymore.
Well, thank you, Doctor. It's nice to be on the show. A lot of good topics out there today. I was a PGA golf professional for 12 years, and I just recently got out of the business. And the reason is change. The PGA of America has not made change. That's the bottom line. They're staying to what has always been. So their two biggest changes in golf recently was that PGA Tour players could wear shorts and something else very silly. But it didn't.
Why would so many millions of people be dropping this sport? That's the real question of the day.
Yeah, and it is.
Why? Because they can wear shorts?
No. Because I'm talking about the PGA Tour. So now to your question, which is the bottom line is people don't have time and technology. And the kids that I spent time with They did not want.
Oh, so the millennials don't want to play golf. It's too slow. They're not into it, right? And playing. Why are millennials not into golf is the real question.
Well, we have technology, which is much more interesting now.
Okay, that's a good call. Thank you very much. It's just not of any interest to them. It's an old man's sport. And by the way, in your lifetime, other sports will also die out. You will see the death of baseball in your time. It's a sport from the 1890s. I still don't understand how people can sit and get excited over men in stripes with bats. I don't understand it. I mean, maybe it's fun. Maybe you love it. But the idea of going to a stadium and eating $12 pig meat that fell on the slaughterhouse floor and drinking $19 beers that you could buy for 13 cents across the street, I don't understand it as well. You could watch it on television and not waste your time in a stadium. That's also going to die out. Here's a little story that you won't see in the local San Francisco or Los Angeles newspaper. I found it in the London Daily Mail this morning. A male prostitute, age 26, died of a meth overdose at the Hollywood home of a high-profile Democrat donor. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Male prostitute 26 dies of meth overdose at Hollywood home of high-profile Democrat donor. The donor's name is Ed Buck. Ed Buck, a high-profile Democrat donor. The man who died has a family. He's an African-American man, and his family is just appalled because they know exactly what went on. The young man who died, who was found dead in West Hollywood at the Democrat donor's house, his family believes that foul play was involved in the hours between Gemel's arrival, that's the boy, the young boy, at Buck's home and his fatal overdose. Gemel Moore's mother, Latisha Nixon, said that her son had been involved with sex work for the past few years. Now, the Democrat donor, if you were to look at him, you would never guess. He looks like everyone else. Striped shirt, bow tie, and a big smile. Big donor to Democrat causes. Hillary Clinton, Jerry Brown. He's in pictures with all of them. And the family feels that there was foul play involved. But given that it was in the state of California, and given that he was with a man who gives a lot of money to the state of California, you and I both know the investigation will die as quickly as Hillary Clinton's campaign did. 855-400-7282. There are other stories that are worthy of your note, not discussion necessarily. Male prostitute 26 dies of meth overdose at Hollywood home of high-profile Democrat donor. It's on michaelsavage.com. Nobody should be surprised by who rammed a BMW into soldiers in Paris. It's a Muslim. You won't be reading about that in any of the American newspapers run by the anti-American fake news media. But we're talking about Korea. And the fact of the matter is, this is the only thing on people's minds. KSFO, Frank, fire away. You're on the Savage Nation.
Hi, Michael. I think what he's doing is 100% right.
Well, I can't even understand you. All right, thanks for the call. Jim, would you please listen to the callers before putting them up? I didn't know if the man, if I was imagining it, he was talking in a toaster, he was in a bread box, he was in the refrigerator freezer. Hello, Michael. I know you very well. I come from your neighborhood. I think the man, and the call screener doesn't even hear me. He's talking to the next one who can't be heard. This is what I have to put up with every day. Michael, how are you? Let's try the next one. KBOI, Cody, line 5. Go ahead, please.
Hey, I was calling in to give my vote for Trump being absolutely right, and I would give him my full support if he decided to take it one step further and destroy their capabilities with the preemptive strike.
Okay, that's a good one, because that's what I think is liable to happen. So you're not on the liberal side, which believes that Trump is just a bully who's threatening a poor innocent Korean man who is simply testing missiles, as I've heard on the show, which is utterly unbelievable. They know nothing about the history of the dictatorship going back to the grandfather, Kim. They know nothing about the conditions in North Korea. And here are these compassionate liberals, listen to this, who love humanity and they're into safe spaces and they don't like hate speech, who say nothing about the lives of millions of people in North Korea, the suffering lives, the misery, the murder, the torture. Not one word from all the people who seek safe spaces at universities, if someone should so much, as look at them the wrong way. I'll be back in a moment.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. Look, many of you don't know the history of the Koreas as well as I do, and I will tell you a few things you need to know before you derive an educated opinion on why North Korea wants nuclear weapons. They want nuclear weapons to retake South Korea. There was a great editorial on this in Business Insider the other day, and what their goal is to destroy the free economy of South Korea and the freedom that the South Koreans enjoy, and they would kill probably hundreds of thousands, as Stalin did, as the grandfather did when he first took over Korea. The others would go into slave labor camps, and all of the great advancements of the South Koreans would go up in smoke. We cannot let that happen. Trump is 100% right. Now, many of you are of the opinion that Trump has no reason to be involved in the Koreas. It's America first. We should be isolationists. Well, there's an argument to be made for that up to a point. But when you have a foreign enemy who is not just threatening to take over a surrounding nation, but to destroy one of your own states, the state of Hawaii, for example, then it becomes the business of the commander-in-chief to protect the citizens of the nation. And that means the citizens of Hawaii, not just the citizens of Hollywood or of the Upper East Side or the Upper West Side or of the West Village. The commander-in-chief has an obligation to protect all the citizens of the United States of America. And whether you want to accept it or not, Hawaii is part of the United States of America. And North Korea is threatening Hawaii. North Korea is threatening a territory of ours, Guam. So you can say, oh, it's Trump's fault. You can always say it's Trump's fault for everything. You can blame everything on Donald Trump if you want, but it wouldn't be true. These threats have been going on for a long period of time. They have just escalated under this Kim Big Fat Un. This is a danger. This man is a danger to not only the United States of America, its territories, and the surrounding nations, but to the entire world. Now, the big question becomes, what if Big Fat Un is taken out? What if finally there is a coup, and even the older generals there know how dangerous he is for his own country, and that somehow they take him out? Let's say that happens. Who would take over North Korea if Big Fat Un disappeared? I have an answer to that as well. There's an answer to every question, by the way. Don't you like when I say that? I like that when I say to you, well, there's an answer to that one as well. Well, there is an answer to that one as well. There is an answer to that one as well. I can give it to you in the 20 seconds that remain, or I can have you hang on and listen to all the ads and come back and hear my brilliant stratagem and idea for who takes over after Kim Jong-Fat Un is gone. And I will do so in exactly a few minutes, and I can't give you exactly in a few minutes, because I want to do it right. I have a plan for saving the Koreas after Big Fat Un is gone.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
34 minutes after the hour, listening to the Savage Nation, the thought leader in talk radio, the magic voice of myself, Michael Savage. Someone in the media, very high up, said I can listen to you talk without even listening to what you're saying. He said, you have the best voice in the media. I said, thank you for that compliment. Maybe I should get a job as a beer advertiser, the most interesting voice in the world. But I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in using my brain with my voice. So today we're talking about Donald Trump. And I asked you, is Trump right to threaten North Korea? So let me read you something from the Business Insider from 3 days ago. North Korea doesn't just want nuclear weapons for defense, it wants them to retake South Korea. This was written by Alex Lockey, Business Insider. The Korean War of the 1950s never really officially ended. In the decades since the armistice of 1953 went into effect, both sides have continued posturing for war. Before North Korea's Kim dynasty could even imagine developing nuclear weapons, landmines and heavy artillery were a deterrent against the South rising up. North Korea has since pursued nuclear weapons for defensive reasons to deter invasion, but also for an offensive reason, so it may someday reunite Korea under the Kim regime. Yoon Sun, a senior associate at the Stimson Center who is an expert on China and North Korea, says the North Koreans' development of nuclear weapons is eventually aimed at the eventual reunification of the Korean peninsula. Now, let's pause right there and not go into the military details because I am not a military expert at all, and I do not pretend to be one. However, common sense would dictate that even amongst the generals, those with the big hats, there are some who know this man is a clear and present danger to his own countrymen, and to them in particular, their families. Many of them are very wealthy, these generals, and they don't want to die. They don't want the U.S. to strike preemptively. They don't want to be tried for war crimes and killed. I can guarantee you there are plots to take out Kim Jong-un as I speak, very much like there were plots to take out every other dictator in the history of the world. So let's for a moment use our imagination, our minds, our thought process and say, all right, let's say that the generals succeed in removing this crazy man for the survival of themselves and their nation. So the question becomes, who takes over for Kim Jong-un after he's gone? And as I said to you before the break, there is an answer to that. And the answer is the occupation of North Korea by troops who would restore order and maintain order and put out all of the lone wolves left from the North Korean dynasty. Just as there were lone wolves after Hitler was defeated and Germany was defeated and Germany surrendered, there were lone wolves who went around killing people and killing Americans, etc., and anyone they considered to be a collaborator. Well, eventually the lone wolf Nazis were hunted down and killed. So you will need an American presence of our best and brightest special forces there to make sure they keep the damage contained. But the question is, who would occupy the nation that would be acceptable to the North Koreans so they can rebuild that nation? Well, the model is there, and that model is Japan. Japan was totaled after World War II. It had been a thriving, booming society and economy before World War II, and as a result of its two great ambitions, it was flattened and reduced to rubble. And so we came in, we occupied Japan, we the United States, and through billions of dollars, we rebuilt Japan. And, of course, then they out-traded us and almost put our automobile industry out of business, almost put our electronics industry out of business. But that's a topic for another time. So we need an occupying force in North Korea because you cannot leave it to the generals because nothing will change. Another dictator would just emerge. So my position of occupation is a very interesting one, but they would never, ever accept occupation by the Japanese for reasons that people from the area know very well, and I don't have to spell it out for you. The Japanese could never occupy Korea with any degree of hope of pacifying the population at large because of the way the Koreans were treated by the Japanese during World War II, where do I have to tell you about the comfort women? Do I have to tell you about the atrocities committed against the Koreans? It's never going to happen. So that leaves Uncle Sam with the burden of occupation. I know you don't want to hear it. Who else is going to occupy it? Who else could occupy it? Well, there is a possibility. You could say the UN, but the UN is an incompetent military force. I don't think they could be used. The Australians, maybe. I don't think they have a big enough army. Who then could be used to occupy North Korea and help them rebuild their country to a model along the lines of South Korea? I don't know who that could be, but my answer is simple. Occupation and rebuilding. The funds should all come from Japan. We shouldn't spend a dime on rebuilding North Korea. Every dollar should be coming from Japan, Japan, Japan. Now, there's one fly or two flies in this ointment. The salve that I just concocted for you in the pharmacy of my mind has a fly in it. And the fly is quite simple. China would not want a booming North Korean economy. China is very happy to have a hermit state where people live in hell. on its border for two reasons. One, it is of no competition to their own economy. Two, it serves as a reminder to the Chinese, most particularly the generals, of what could happen to them if they step out of line. So I'm not so sure that the Chinese leadership would want North Korea to become a democracy. But those are the initial sketches from one man's point of view that I came up with on this show, liking to think out loud. I do think out loud. I take the chances. What do you think of my ideas? I'm just throwing it out there for you. It's as simple as that. But if you want to only keep it simplistic, what we can talk about is Trump right to threaten North Korea. Let's go to Noah on KSFO Online, I believe. Noah, are you calling online or are you listening locally in the San Francisco area?
I'm listening locally in the
Okay, so tell me what your point is here. I'd love to hear it.
Okay, so my point here is Trump is in a very similar position to where Obama was when he drew the Syrian red line. And Obama made a complete fool of himself diplomatically and foreign policy-wise when he didn't act when that red line was crossed. Trump made a very clear red line. If Kim Jong-un threatens the United States, he didn't say the mainland of the United States, he said the United States. And what I take from that is anything that could potentially harm the United States. Attacking Guam, where we have a major military base and major interests on that island, that is not in the interest of the United States.
Right. Guam is a forward air base for the United States in the event of a military actions in Asia. We know that.
We use those when we fly the B-2 bombers over the Korean Peninsula.
That's right. The B-2s that were flying over the Korean Peninsula came out of Guam. They didn't come out of California. I'm aware of that. So, yeah, no, they're not going to be able to threaten Guam too much longer. But I think your point is a very important one, Noah, which is that Trump's got himself in a hard spot right now because he shot his mouth off. It sounds good on paper, makes us feel good, but now he has to act, is what you're saying.
Right, but here's the thing, Michael. The thing is, strategic patience under the Obama administration has led to the nuclearization of the DPRK. It has done nothing. The United Nations just voted unanimously on a motion, or on a resolution, rather, to sanction North Korea further. And China and Russia were two of the countries that, that voted in favor of that.
Yeah, they signed on to the sanctions against North Korea, which was a good thing. But it's done nothing. Kim Jong, mentally ill, went ahead and launched again and then threatened Guam. So apparently sanctions aren't going to stop this madman.
Say is that the unanimous vote.
But Noah, look, you're analyzing correctly. You obviously are in business or something, and you can think there's much like a business going on here, an acquisition, a merger and acquisition, a hostile takeover. I mean, people think this way all the time in businesses around the world. What's the opposition going to do? If they do this, I do that. Trump's got himself in a spot where he literally has to act militarily, doesn't he?
I would agree. Now, what you just said, you used the word rational. Now, if you're talking about rational actor theory, this is someone who is completely irrational, Kim Jong-un, and you can't really use a rational theory to go about handling the situation.
That's right. We don't know what he's liable to do. That is correct. He's not a rational man. He's a very insecure man who was foisted upon the world stage, absolutely not qualified for the position that he was given. His father was a military dictator. His grandfather was a military dictator. They killed their enemies. They torture people. They rape people at will. So what do you think a madman like that's liable to do?
He's liable to do anything to hold on to power. Now, here's the important point here. The only allies, the only strong, reputable allies of North Korea are China and Russia. Now, do you think it's a coincidence that both China and Russia, the two main geopolitical allies of North Korea, share a border with them? So I think we have to realize the UN, the unanimous nature of that resolution, including China and Russia, okay, shows you that we do have some kind of, we have, in a way, a right to act now militarily. Now, of course, the vote was on sanctions, sure, but militarily speaking, that is really our last leg here, especially given they...
Noah, it's interesting that the sanctions measure by the UN was signed on both by China and Russia, as you just mentioned. But doesn't that lead you to believe that maybe China or Russia themselves will take out this crazy man?
Yes, and here's the thing. I have to disagree with you on one of your previous points. You said China most likely doesn't want the DPRK to become a democratic nation. I strongly disagree with that, and I'll tell you why. The main reason, even coming out of the foreign ministry of China, the main reason that they want a stable North Korea, or that they support North Korea in their actions thus far, is to keep a stable North Korea. Whether that be via a dictatorship, a totalitarian regime.
Wait. Why wouldn't they want a stable Korean peninsula along the lines of a South Korean nation, a nation that's booming, a nation that produces products that the world wants and people are free? Why would China not want that?
I'm saying they would. I'm saying they would. Now, the only reason I think China is really diplomatic and in favor of a stable dictatorship in North Korea, it's just the reason I said it's because it's stable. China and North Korea share 90% of their, or North Korea rather, shares 90% of the border with China.
Yeah, but wait a minute. China got almost all of its technology from, North Korea got almost all of its missile technology from China, so they're not fooling anybody. We know where the technology came from. The miniaturization, it came from China. The ICBM technology, it came from China, maybe a little bit from Iran, according to my reading. So, China's not an innocent partner in all of this posturing.
They're not at all, and they're the main reason that the nuclear program has proliferated at the rate that it has. But I think we have to realize what the main interest is for the Chinese government. It's to keep North Korea stable. So if we can topple the regime in some militaristic way, and then, like you said, have some kind of regime change, and establish something the likes we've seen in Japan after the destruction seen there, I don't think China would have an issue with that. I think you see the...
All right, so you agree that my plan for occupation and rebuilding along the lines of Japan after World War II is a good idea, and I thank you. No, we're running short of time. I love callers like that, people who respond to an idea with more ideas and bigger ideas. Wonderful. That's what talk radio is at its best. There's no question about it. I'll be right back to take more of your calls at 855-400-7282. This is the Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. Welcome back to the Savage Nation. Look, we're all sitting here asking about North Korea. Half of the liberals, Trump's the reason. It's not right. He did it. No, he's not the reason. Study the history before you shoot your mouth off, you idiot progressives. North Korea is a dictatorship, a police state. They kill their own citizens. And they've been doing so for 3 generations now. Now, before we talk about North Korea again in the Savage Nation, let's bring it down home to our daily lives. You've heard me talk about blood flow. Super Beets is one of the most impressive natural functional foods I have found. That's why I talk about it. We all know that healthy circulation is critical, especially as we age. There's a natural way to support healthy blood flow, and that's by getting enough nitric oxide in your body. How does that happen? Well, you have to start with dietary nitrates. Super Beets is the easiest way to get these natural dietary nitrates. You put a scoop in water or a smoothie, and you're all set. This is the secret to helping support healthy circulation and healthy blood pressure levels. You see, Super Beets works 3 times faster to give you results you can feel. It tastes great. It's all about blood flow. It's about blood flow. You'll feel the energy and stamina quickly, maybe within 20 minutes. If you haven't tried it yet, now is the time. For a limited time, you will get 10 on-the-go packets of Super Beets to pop in your desk drawer, purse, or gym bag. You'll have more energy, more stamina, support healthy circulation. I don't know what you're waiting for. This is on top of the free canister, free indicator strips, and free book you get with your first order when you call 800-481-0504. Write it down. That's 800-481-0504, or go to SavageLovesBeats.com. That's SavageLovesBeats.com. Guaranteed your money back. Call 800-481-0504. That is 800-481-0504, or go to SavageLovesBeats.com. Again, SavageLovesBeats.com. Warren on WSBA Radio. Welcome to the Savage Nation. What's your topic?
Sir, yes. I think if there's a war with North Korea, that's going to mean war with China. It's going to be just like 1950. If we go against North Korea and we try to occupy their territory. There's no way China is going to stand for that. They have 200,000 troops massed against the North Korean border, and it's not for North Korean refugees. It's to pour into the border in case there's an invasion by us.
It's an interesting question. I've studied the history of the Korean War, and I know that the North Koreans almost took over the entire peninsula until the U.S. Marines landed in the southeastern corner and took back a relatively small portion of South Korea with hand-to-hand, the most bloodiest fighting imaginable. And they pushed the Koreans back, North Koreans back to the 38th parallel. And then MacArthur made a big mistake. MacArthur said, let's go all the way to the Chinese border and push them out of the country and take over the whole peninsula. At that point, China unleashed 300,000 Chinese troops that were amassed on the border. So you're saying the Chinese troops are massed on the border for the very same reason now?
Yes, sir. Exactly.
Well, I was under the impression that the Chinese troops were there for two reasons. One, maybe as a deterrent against such a takedown of mentally ill, or to prevent a mass refugee flow from North Korea into China. I'm not sure what they're there for, but it remains a big problem. I think Trump had no choice. Hitler should have been stopped at Munich. Big fat mentally ill one needs to be stopped at Pyongyang.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage. Warning. The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, winner of the National Radio Hall of Fame Award, Michael Savage.
Live and die in talk radio. Welcome to the Savage Nation. You know, the show has an introduction which says it's the most exciting radio show. You don't have to be too exciting to do a radio show today. We're living in very excitable times. Today is a great example of that. The stakes just went up. North Korea, the United States. Of course, the liberals, true to form, are traitorous and stab our president in the back at every turn, not only with a Soviet-style investigation of everyone around him, using the tactics of Beria from the Soviet Union. What's the statement? You remember it? Show me the man and I'll show you the crime. Mueller is now acting out the role of the Beria hitman for Stalin. But we're talking about Korea. Is Trump right to threaten North Korea? My gut instinct tells me most Americans would back Trump if he struck first. Now, of course, Maxine Waters, who has never stopped calling for impeachment, now all of a sudden, after her big mouth called for the most vile things, saying we should negotiate. Didn't Obama negotiate? Didn't Clinton negotiate? Didn't everyone negotiate with the Kim family going back to the 1950s? 3 generations of Kim madmen? And for those of you who love socialism and love Bernie Sanders, be very cautious, because here we have the clearest example in front of our eyes of the difference between socialism and a free economy. North Korea, socialist. A dictatorship produces nothing. People are starving to death. South Korea, booming economy, free people, Samsung televisions, Kia cars, beautiful cities, beautiful highways. North Korea, South Korea, socialism versus a free economy. I mean, I could tell you about South America, but you won't look south. You won't recognize what Chavez did to this great nation of Venezuela. You won't accept that it was socialism that destroyed that nation. So how can I talk with people who don't know their history and don't understand reality and don't understand that we're now in a place we've not really wanted to be? Now, for those of you who say if we had Hillary as president, we wouldn't be in this position, that she would have negotiated with Kim Jong-un. Well, she did negotiate with Kim Jong-un by letting him do what he wanted. Obama negotiated with him, too. He gave him everything he wanted. And if you think that they were pacifists, you're mistaken. I mean, Hillary Clinton killed Gaddafi, the dictator of Libya, even though he begged her not to do so. When they had Gaddafi cornered, he said, don't kill me, or Libya will descend into a lawless state along the lines of Somalia ruled by warlords. But Hillary didn't listen to him. Hillary killed him, and then her and her girlfriends cackled. Robert, show the world what Hillary Clinton really is when she gave herself away after assassinating Gaddafi. Listen.
We came, we saw, he died.
You hear the peaceful college ladies having a good time because their boss woman said that they killed him? Well, so you see, leaders do terrible things when they think it's in the national interest. Trump right now feels that by threatening one of our states, which is Hawaii, one of our territories, which is Guam, which has a very large military base there, mainly our strategic bombers take off and land from there. Our B-1s that just overflew the Korean Peninsula went out of Guam. We have every reason in the world to protect ourselves, and Trump has no opportunity to do anything else. There is no negotiating with this guy. And North Korea does not just want nuclear weapons for defense, as some of you mistakenly believe. It wants them to retake South Korea. I guide you to an article in Business Insider from 2 days ago, Alex Lockey, where he says the Korean War of the 1950s never really officially ended. And both sides have been posturing for war. And the North Koreans' development of nuclear weapons is eventually aimed at the eventual reunification of the Korean Peninsula, said Yun Sun, a senior associate at the Stimson Center, who is an expert on China and North Korea. So North Korea wants to conquer South Korea. They've been wanting to conquer South Korea ever since the armistice was signed in 1953. And the fact of the matter is that's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. The South Koreans have one of the finest militaries on earth. I mean, I'm no expert on military, but I do read military publications. And the last readings that I did on the ROK troops says that they're some of the hardest troops in the world, some of the best trained troops in the world, some of the most dedicated troops in the world, some of the most militant troops in the world. The ROK military is a very powerful military. That's the South Koreans' military, the Republic of Korea. Don't confuse it with the Republicans of Korea, of whom there may be some. But they all live in San Francisco, the Republicans of Korea. The Republic of Korea is a little different than the Republicans of Korea, who are now obviously in the White House. But I open it up to you. Is Trump right to threaten North Korea? Let's make it some discussion points, though, not just yes or no's. In the last hour, people asked what would happen, what will happen after Kim Jong-un is gone. Because there's a high likelihood that he will be taken out by one of his generals or by a Soviet agent or a Chinese agent. Some way in the world, they're not going to let this go on. They do not want this kind of instability. They certainly don't want the saber rattling to go on around the world because it's bad for business. In plain English, it's like the gangsters who have a good thing going. They got drugs, prostitution, gambling going. The worst thing for the business, for illicit businesses, is war. They all knew that. That's when they organized into organized criminal groups. They kept it quiet. They tried to quell any uprisings because it was bad for business and the money stopped flowing. It's the same with nations. They're no different in many ways than gangs. And no nation on earth wants this instability and wants war. No one really wants war. And the question is, it's only a matter to me, it's not a matter if, I think it's a matter of when Kim Jong-un goes. He's going to go. He's just pushed himself too far, too hard. And I believe it's going to be a shock when it happens. And it'll happen in the most unexpected ways. He knows it, too. I guarantee you he has food tasters. This I can guarantee you. Any man who threatens the entire world like this doesn't last too long. Okay, folks, let's open it up to the smartest people in America. They listen to the Savage Nation, and they call the show after thinking. WBOB in Jacksonville, Sean, line 7. What's your point and on what topic?
Yes. I'm a Army veteran, and I spent a year in South Korea, and you're absolutely right about the reunification. I was privy to several intel briefs. I also had the privilege of training my Rock Army counterparts, and you're absolutely right. They are a hardcore people. To that point, I think any kind of occupation would have to be led by the South Koreans with American support, just based on the fact that culturally the Koreans don't like anybody around them. They hate the Chinese, they hate the Japanese, and the South Koreans they're the same people.
All right, so the South Koreans speak the same language. They're of the same ethnic stock.
Yes.
And you would say that they'd be more acceptable as an occupying force. I think that's what you're saying.
Yes, learning our lessons from past occupations and insurgencies. It doesn't work too well very often when your skin's a different color. You know what I mean?
Oh, no, I hear you. There are realities on the ground as opposed to textbooks.
And something else nobody's talking about is a reunification of that peninsula with Korea.
I'm sorry, I missed the last point. A reunification of what?
A reunification done by the South Koreans, because you're absolutely right. They are ready for war.
All right. Well, hold on. I'm going to send you a copy of Trump's War. You sound like a very well-thought-out young man. I don't even know if you're young, but you certainly know what you're talking about. This is not a laughing matter. This is not a matter to be left to Maxine Waters, let alone William Cohen, the former defense secretary, so-called, who sold us down the river. I mean, you got to listen to the people and what they're saying, how stupid they sound. It's the same pacifist capitulation we've heard for years. Listen to William Cohen, who gave us the Balkans War, when he mercilessly unleashed the U.S. Air Force after sneakily having U.S. Air Force planes repainted with NATO markings. This is the same William Cohen who is now telling us that we should be passive when it comes to North Korea. But worse than that, he's telling us to understand North Korea's position in Clip 5.
Well, if you go back to the Chinese strategist Sun Tzu, he said you must know your enemy, and to know your enemy, you must think like your enemy. I think we have to do more of that to understand what their goal is. Their goal is not to invite a nuclear holocaust. Their goal is to remain secure in perpetuity with their family, if they can, to develop their country, and hopefully they think one day to dominate the Korean Peninsula, whether by intimidation or by some sort of an agreement which takes down the barriers where you can have a united Korea that is not militarized. Now, that may be pie in the sky, but they are not taking action to invite an attack by the United States. That is totally counterintuitive, certainly from our point, and I believe from theirs.
What did he actually just say? This is such an example of policy wonkism. Does anyone know what he just said? I don't even understand what William Cohen is arguing. What, we should let North Korea demilitarize the 38th parallel and what, invade the South? What is he saying? Does he even know what he's saying? This guy's been so deeply enmeshed in the deep state that he doesn't even know he drowned a long time ago. There's hardly any air left in the man's lungs, and yet he's giving us some advice when he himself authorized the bombing. If I'm not mistaken, I could be. I believe he was defense secretary under Clinton, right? He mercilessly bombed Serbia, destroyed every bridge on the Danube River, and now he's talking about peace. This is when the Serbs did not threaten us. This is when the Serbs were fighting for their life. This is when the Serbs were fighting to prevent the UN from stealing Kosovo from them, which had been part of Serbia since the 1300s. Instead, this man of peace, William Cohen, bombed every bridge on the Danube River, killed people in hospitals in Serbia, schools in Serbia, trains in Serbia, cars in Serbia, and not one of the deep state operatives on CNN or NBC or MSNBC showed you one picture. Not one picture was ever shown of the devastation Bill Clinton wrought upon Serbia. Did you ever see a picture of it? Not one. Beware the government media complex. Many of the people you see in the media who you distrust, you don't understand it. They work for the deep state. They are the deep state. How else do you explain people with very low intellect, with almost no ability other than to look cute or look handsome, if you want to call a facile individual handsome? I don't see handsomeness in facility, in facileness. You think they got there because they're so smart? They got there because the deep state wanted them there. They're agents. They're handlers. They're all part of the deep state. And I got to tell you something. This business is getting harder and harder every day. The media. If you're not a member in good standing represented by an agent of the deep state who represents all those out to get you, if you can keep your head while all those around you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, then you'll be a talk show host, my son.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. So today Donald Trump got up and doubled down and he said, fire and fury. No, I'm not sorry I said it. It may not have been tough enough. And I think he means it. First of all, he says that North Korea is now boxed in, that if they dare move, he's going to strike them. But frankly, he boxed himself in as well. Because otherwise, if you draw a green line or whatever you call red line, and you don't do anything, you're finished. We ridiculed Obama for that in Syria, didn't we? So if it turns out he doesn't do anything, and Kim Big Fat Un does something, that's it. That's the end of his administration. Then he'll have nothing left. So he knows that. He's smart enough to know that. I don't think he's bluffing. I think he's got something in mind. I think the military has told him what they can do. I believe it will be a neutron bomb if they do anything at all, for reasons I described over 2 days ago. And it'll shock the world, but it'll be the end of a dictatorship, and everyone will thank him in the long run. KKOH, Reno, John, line 2, go ahead. What's your topic?
Yes, sir. On the Korea issue, not to piggyback on what the Army guy said, but I've been to Korea myself, and I've actually been to the DMZ. And I'm a prior Marine, and I've actually trained with the Iraq Marines. And South Korea takes the threat of North Korea extremely seriously. And I was there back in 1986, in the fall of 1986, and where we in our tent city was, you could the mountain ridges, you could literally see almost with a naked eye the giant missile silos pointed towards North Korea. And we took a tour up to the DMZ.
Wait, let me see if I follow you. You said missile silos pointed toward North Korea, or the North Korean missiles? Or the North Korean missiles aimed at South Korea?
No, this was in South Korea, and the South Koreans had actual missile silos on the top of these mountain tops, pointed towards
Well, it's a pretty big stalemate because you know and I know it's well established in the media that North Korea has thousands of artillery pieces aimed at the South. They're not missiles, but they're artillery pieces that can do great damage. It's estimated that if Kim Jong-Fat Un is knocked off, there's an automatic order to launch every one of these artillery pieces, which would kill an estimated 1 million South Koreans.
Well, they've been wanting to take over South Korea forever, and it's just odd because I took these pictures because it was fall, and I don't get off subject here, but and you can the leaves were turning, and New England it wasn't, but you can see the foliage, and it was 1986. I had a 110 pocket Instamatic camera. I was trying to.
Unfortunately, I'm almost out of time, John. First of all, I want to thank you for your former service as a former Marine. You know it firsthand, and as I said in the last hour, people should study the history of the Koreas before they have any opinion, draw any opinion at all, and they should look at what the North Koreans are living through before you say let him do what he wants. It has nothing to do with us. How can people who claim to be liberals say we should let millions of people live in such horrible, horrible circumstances? You say, well, it's not our business. Well, it becomes our business when the dictator threatens one of our states or one of our territories, which is a tremendous military asset.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Trump right to threaten North Korea? Is it long overdue, or is it a bellicosity that the world doesn't need right now? It's as simple as that. And I wouldn't say America's divided on this. I mean, my gut instinct tells me most Americans would back Trump if he were to launch some kind of strike against North Korea, preemptively or otherwise, taking out command and control centers, taking out nuclear facilities, taking out the research scientist barracks, anything along those lines, America would cheer. And by the way, so would Japan, incidentally. Certainly South Korea would. Philippines would. The only people who would oppose it would be Jerry Brown and Maxine Waters, because they need to understand, I mean, they want us to understand that they need quietude around their own deficiencies. Here's Maxine Waters saying we have to find out if we can work with North Korea. What do you mean we have to find out? We've been trying to work with North Korea since the armistice, Maxine. What world are you living in? And don't you love how she's calling for diplomacy all of a sudden, that big-mouth liar? After months and months and months of shooting off a filthy mouth, screaming for impeachment day after day after day to her dumb constituents who she rips off. She lives in a multi-million-dollar house outside her own district, and here's a woman who stirs up her own constituents with hatred for the president day after day, and she's now screaming for diplomacy. This is astounding to me. But I'm asking you, is Trump right to threaten North Korea? You know, there was a secret police chief in the Soviet Union named Beria, one of the most frightened, fearful people on earth. And he had a statement. It was, show me the man and I'll show you the crime. Mueller is now the Beria of America. Show me the man and I'll show you the crime. So he breaks in the doors of Mr. Manafort. The day after Manafort testifies, by the way, and cooperates with the Senate and the FBI uses Soviet-style tactics of kicking in his door with a fake search warrant gotten from some crackpot judge. And now we're living in the Soviet Union, and we're sitting here not recognizing what's going on in this country from the American so-called Democratic left. Show me the man and I'll show you the crime. When they came for Manafort, you didn't raise your voice, did you? Now, many people are saying there are military options here, and there are military options, and I'm not a military man at all, but I do read military men who know what they're talking about. He can be stopped, and just as Hitler should have been stopped at Munich, Fatso should be stopped right now before he actually gets the ability to blast us here in the United States of America. Many of you don't understand. Many of you don't understand the nearest thing even about a fist fight. And I'm no tough guy, but I've had my incidents in my life. I learned one thing about bullies. Unless you stand up to them, even if they're bigger than you, they're going to crush you. Now, North Korea is smaller than us. But North Korea is a bully. They're bullying us because they've been used to bullying us because we've had punks running America. We've had Islamists running America, Islamophiles running America, Islamophobes running America. We've had think tankers and defense contractors, but we've never had, in recent times anyway, someone willing to stand up for America. This is no longer an internal feud inside the White House. This is the president, the commander-in-chief, who has his finger on the button, whether you like it or not. And, of course, many of you are terrified that he actually may do this. So I'm asking you, the audience, is Trump right to threaten North Korea? It could be done, by the way. North Korea last night said that they're going to attack Guam by mid-August. Many people are saying, why can't we talk to him? For example, Mad Maxine Waters, who should be investigated for the scandalous inveigling of funds connected with Freddie and Fannie. Maxine Waters has not shut her big fat mouth yet, and she says we should talk to North Korea. William Cohen, former so-called defense secretary, says that Trump's fire and fury comment was bombastic, and silence would have been better. Well, William Cohen was well known to have embarrassed the United States as defense secretary. I believe he oversaw the bombing of Serbia, if I'm not mistaken. He seems to have been very happy to have bombed Serbia and blown up every bridge on the Danube River. Now he's telling Trump to do nothing. What's really interesting is that many of the leftists in America are now sort of siding with North Korea. They're saying all he really wants is the reunification of Korea. Is that something you think would be good? to take a communist dictatorship where people are eating straw and they're killed if they let us say lambast or even criticize the dictator Kim Jong Fat One in any way? If Kim Jong Fat One is at all intimidated, they wind up dead or in a concentration camp. And now the left in America is saying we should talk to him and let him reunify Korea into a hellhole? Do you people not understand that South Korea is an example of what capitalism produces when people are unshackled from communism or socialism or any of the other isms that you people are so in love with at your universities, where you don't really work for a living? All you do is collect a government check and then tell everyone the government is great and the taxpayer is an idiot? Did you hear what I just said to you? He wants to reunify Korea into a hellhole, a dictatorship like he has in the North. The South produces Samsung televisions, Kia cars. The people are free. The city is beautiful. Have you no idea what you are talking about? I was watching TV, and I always stop on the History Channel. I seem to like it the most. And it was about Stalin, the maniac, the socialist Stalin, who was the equivalent chess piece to Hitler. Hitler did, Stalin did. Hitler did, Stalin did. Hitler did, Stalin did. And what Stalin did to the Polish people, actually, I thought I knew that history. I didn't know it. The Poles fought valiantly alongside Russian soldiers in Italy against the Germans, and they were told they would be rewarded with freedom when they returned to Poland. Meanwhile, at the time they were fighting alongside the Russians, Stalin was rounding up their families and deporting them to Siberia. It's astounding what Stalin did after the Polish soldiers went home. He stripped them of their arms. I mean, you don't know what a dictator is. Most of you have no idea what a paradise we're living in this country. All you got to do is open your eyes to the history of Russia, and you'll understand the history of terrible, terrible, terrible realities for human beings. And so when you start messing with Russia and Russians, although the Russians of today are not the Russians of World War II, they are still much tougher as people than we are. Even to this day, with the glitz, with the obsession with luxury goods, the Russians are still a much tougher people than we are. And their conscripts, I guarantee you, are as tough as their grandfathers if push comes to shove. And what gets me sick to my stomach is seeing these left-wing fanatics screaming for a war with Russia. All they want is a war with Russia. North Korea is threatening us, and they still want a war with Russia. You got the deranged liar, Maxine Waters, who was deeply enmeshed up to her eyebrows in the Freddie Mac Fannie Mae scandal. Here is a woman who represents an almost all-black district, mainly poor. She lives in a mansion outside the district, and she makes believe she's representing them. And there's not one article in the Atlantic, the New Yorker, the New York Times, the San Francisco papers, the LA papers, not one article about the fraud Maxine Waters, not one article from the fake news. Yes, there is fake news, but it didn't begin with Donald Trump. It began a long time ago. The problem is that when you start saying all news is fake news, what's real? That's the problem, boys and girls. I thought of what Trump said, how right Trump was to threaten this punk and stop him before he does launch. And I thought how sickening it is to see the pacifists and the apologists saying, Trump shouldn't have done this, Trump shouldn't have done that. All the left-wing fanatics who sat there for all the years that Obama let this maniac build up his arsenal and now telling us Trump should have been more diplomatic. We've been diplomatic. How much more diplomatic can you be with a maniac, you idiots? You are the same type that would have said we should not go to war with Hitler. After all, he only invaded Poland. He only invaded Czechoslovakia. He only invaded France. Give it some time. Negotiate with Hitler. This guy's Hitler and Stalin together, you idiots, you. Trump was 100% right for threatening this bum. Now, what you don't know is an article from the Daily Star which shows a map that the maniac, Kim Jong mentally ill on, accidentally released of the cities in the U.S. that he would strike. There was a map seen in North Korean propaganda in a movie called The War Room with Kim. And there was a map behind them, and on the map he had targets marked under the subtitle, U.S. Mainland Strike Plan. And in this map, trajectories of missiles can be seen sketched out on the giant hanging map pictured behind the tyrant. And where do these lines go? Which cities is he apparently thinking of blowing up? San Diego in California, Austin in Texas, Washington, D.C., and the islands of Hawaii. You may say, oh, come on, it's nonsense. Well, he may have a warhead as powerful as 40 kilotons, which is more than twice the strength of the Hiroshima bomb. And he may have the ability to unleash these missiles, either by submarine or another method. And most of you who are studying this and think it's hogwash should remember that there are North Korean operatives in this country right now posing as engineers, scientists, doctors, waiters. You don't know who they are, do you? No, you don't know who they are. Oh, I'm sorry, it's going to be the scare now. I'll be accused of causing a scare tactic. Well, here's a map put out by a newspaper in Britain showing Kim Jong mentally ill in front of a map with trajectories going to these cities, and then they estimate the number of dead should the maniac be allowed to launch. 78,000 dead in San Diego, 231,000 dead in Washington, 73,000 dead in Austin, 111,000 dead in Honolulu. What do you think, this is a joke? You think this idiot couldn't do this? It says Kim Jong mentally ill unwittingly revealed his plans for an attack on the U.S. in 2013. And there he is with the maniac generals behind him with the oversized hats that they probably bought from the Merchant of Venice, hats that were left over from the Russian campaign in 1941. Apparently the heads are smaller in North Korea than in Russia. I don't know where these hats come from. But putting aside the comedic element of the big-hatted men that surround them with medals running down their arms and legs, this is no laughing matter, and Trump is 100% right. In fact, U.S. Pacific Command dispatched B-1B bombers to the region as North Korea. State media claimed Kim was reviewing plans to attack the U.S. military base on the island of Guam. Is that a joke? You want to negotiate with a guy like that? He's threatening to do it. What do you want President Trump to do? Get on his hands and knees and lick his boots? Thank God we have an alpha male president. That's all I can say after having the Metro Obama who was playing for the other team. That's all I can say. There's only one question today because the president just gave a press conference about North Korea where he said maybe fire and fury isn't enough on North Korea. Not enough. In other words, he's doubled down. All of the nervous Nellies, the previous defense secretaries who weakened us, the think tankers who undermined us, the boll weevils in the universities are wringing their hands saying, please appease Hitler. Please continue to appease the North Korean Hitler. Maybe he'll stop. Can't we just talk to him? Well, I've been talking to him for a while. So Trump said maybe fire and fury statement on North Korea wasn't tough enough. I'm going to ask you a question, those of you who listen to the Savage Nation quite religiously. We're going to ignore all of the nervous Nellies in the media. We're going to ignore everyone. It's only this audience and I. Is Trump right to threaten North Korea? Yes or no? Has he made things worse, or will he back Fatso down? I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. Let me give you a little history of the Kim family, the Stalinist dictatorship of Korea. For those of you who don't even know the difference between North and South Korea and think it's a joke, there's a little history you have to learn before you derive your own opinion. First of all, successful missile tests, yes. The murder of his half-brother in Kuala Lumpur, you forgot that? Well, it's a hermit state for a reason. There's a ruling dynasty. What is the ruling dynasty? Well, it began with the eternal president, the grandfather, Kim Il-sung, who established the Stalinist dictatorship after World War II. And with Soviet Russia's help, he was installed, and he followed Stalin's tactics of killing all political enemies, and he laid down the foundations for the regime as we see it today. This mad dictator, the grandfather, had three children, Kim Man II, Kim Kyung-hee, and his successor, Kim Jong. Okay, now we move forward. Kim Jong-il, the father, was born in North Korea in 1942. Some say he was born in the Soviet Union in 1941. He was a playboy who loved American movies. He ran the country after his father's death in 1994. In 2011, he died. He was thought to have at least 4 female partners, which is why, of course, North Korea is still favored by those who go to Burning Man. We then go on to the current day, where we have a new sort of leadership under the grandson of the original dictator. The new one is known as Kim Big Fat Un. Kim Jong-il's first wife was known as Kim Jong-suk, but there are no pictures of her. She gave birth to their daughter Kim Sol-sung in 1974. Well, eventually Kim Jong II became involved with the dancer Kim Jong-hui, and they became estranged. See, it even goes on in dictatorships. This is important for you to know. Prior to marrying Kim Jong-suk, Kim Jong-il had an affair with Song Rae-him, a famous actress. Song reportedly suffered from mental illness, and she was forced to get out of North Korea and move to Russia, in which she died at 63. But this is important because they had a son named Kim Jong-nam. Okay, just follow the bouncing balls. The illegitimate son of Song Rae-him and Kim Jong-il, Kim Jong-nam, was raised in secrecy and set up to take the North Korean crown after his father's death. But listen to this. Jong-nam fell out of favor after being caught trying to travel to Disneyland. I know you say this is crazy. He was reportedly murdered on Monday, well, that was in February, after an apparent poison attack in Kuala Lumpur's main airport in Malaysia. So he was knocked off. Then what happened? Another one of Kim Jong-il's lovers, Kim Jong-il's lovers, Ko Young-hui, was working as a dancer before becoming his partner and bore him 2 sons and a daughter. One of the sons is Kim Jong-un, who I affectionately call Kim Big Fat Un. She died in 2004, allegedly of breast cancer. Now it leads us to the supreme leader of the Stalinist Democratic People's Republic of Korea, very similar to Berkeley in many ways. Very little is known about the madman. Before he took power, he was rarely ever seen in public. And many of the things that he and his government do remain secret. No one even knows his birth date, but they think he's about 33 or 34 years old. And what is he doing now? The insecure madman is launching missiles in every direction he can and threatening both the United States of America, Japan, and the Philippines. So what do you expect Trump to do? Sit there and take it? Trump is absolutely right to threaten North Korea, but I will predict that this will go beyond threats. My prediction is it will be happening sooner than later.
Savage.